I've made it to Biosphere 2.
Now owned by the University of Arizona, this place had a very cultish beginning.
All right, I've made it to Biosphere 2. I don't have a huge amount of time because I ran into some traffic and a really slow suburban highway. There's a walking tour. Know that Biosphere 2 is currently run by the University of Arizona, but originally it was a rich man's dream. Kind of a pre-Elon Musk billionaire dream.
Sadly, I didn't really see any wildlife aside from some deer when I was leaving.
So it is a walking tour, self-guided with the app, and there are interest points where you stop and listen to or watch a short video. And they say 50% indoors, 50% outdoors. Currently, I'm outdoors, just walking around the campus following red arrows on the ground. Kind of guide you along the designated route. This is 101 Scenic Overlook, the first stop after the introductory stop. I have my life filming into the sun. Everywhere I go, I'm at the wrong time of day, but you can see some of the funky Biosphere 2 structure, which I'll eventually approach on this walking tour. Remember, we are in the desert here, not far from Tucson. Interestingly, they said one of the first stop or the second stop on the walking tour, this place has been owned by various people, including a woman who built it out as a hotel and an executive training retreat. The University of Arizona owned it in the 70s. Then they sold it to the Biosphere Corporation in the, I think they said the 80s, and they're the ones who started off with the Biosphere construction, but it is now reverted to University of Arizona. There really is a beautiful backdrop with the mountains
And the inevitable desert wind.
Okay, I gotta keep following the designated tour. It's also beautifully landscaped, xeriscaped.
They actively harvest rainwater.
Okay, apologies for shooting into the sun. You know, this was built out in the 80s. They were starting in 84 is when the Biosphere people started building it out. Clearly, that's their idea of what space age looked like. Okay, so if you decide to come to Biosphere 2, I recommend you come in the morning, not in the late afternoon like I did. You'll get much better shots.
Isn't the architecture just phenomenal?
Okay, that building with the bulb thing on top is the human habitat, the original human habitat. And the thing way up at the top is the library, which gave a 360-degree view of the surrounding area. However, it says the Biospherians rarely used it because there was this very long spiral staircase to get to the top. Okay, so there are plants growing inside that building. I can't zoom out far enough, but you can see up. And I don't know if you can see them in the video. But it's called agrovoltaics, and the University of Arizona is experimenting with generating solar electricity and growing plants and how everything works together. It's very complicated. I suggest you download the app and check it out. Super cool. And it looks like we get to go inside now because this is the way the walkway leads. Okay, this is the kitchen. And they basically lived on a very low-fat plant-based diet with limited ingredients, no oil, and grew everything that they harvested what they ate. Apparently they did have some livestock. It wasn't shown in the video, but like a lot of things with this experiment, it wasn't very successful. So it wasn't totally vegan. The first crew physician, they did have a physician on staff. There were 8 biospherians in the first experiment that lasted 2 years and 7 in the second experiment. I don't remember what, but that one lasted, I forget, something like 6 months. And then there's a biospherian apartment. Okay, and even though it looks like a really tiny apartment, and it is pretty small, there is a staircase going up. The bedroom is upstairs. So each biospherian decorated according to their own tastes. So this one was like an artist's studio. And that's the beginning of the spiral staircase going up to the original Biosphere 2 library tower. And one of the videos said it was very rarely used. And this exhibit discusses Leo, the Landscape Evolution Observatory at the University of Arizona's Biosphere 2 is among the biggest environmentally controlled earth science experiments ever built. And I'm not going to have time to read the rest of this, but we can pause it or look it up on the app. Well, that was fun. At least the stairs I had to go down had hand railings unlike the Gila cliff dwellings, which about killed me yesterday. My thighs are sore from all the stairs yesterday. Gosh, I don't have a huge amount of time. This exhibit is about the Leo, or I guess it's Leo, not the Leo, the Landscape Evolution Observatory. Okay, we're still inside. But here's an orchard area. Okay, guava, coffee, grapefruit and lemon trees, and I can't see what's over there. Pretty awesome though. Absolutely fascinating. It turns out it took way more work to plant and harvest and grow and dry and grind and make coffee from the little bit of coffee they had. The coffee beans they grew, they only had a cup of coffee every few weeks. Also, bananas they used to ferment wine because they didn't bring any alcohol in. And the biospherians were calorically deficient, and most of them lost between 22 and 25% of their body fat. Even though they were nutritionally okay, they were calorically deficient. And they did have a nutritionist and a doctor on site, and his job was to see what the effects of isolation and growing your own food had on the human body. Also, the current Leo that I was talking about earlier is where I think they said the intensive agricultural biome, something like that used to be, where they grew the sweet potatoes and other sorghum, other foods that were comprised the bulk of their diet. And again, the animals, oops, there goes my hand. The animals provided a little bit of protein from animal production, but again, it wasn't very successful. I'm outside the biosphere now, or that part of it. Continuing on with the tour. And I believe this is what they said was the Leo. That's the way I just came from. Are these organ pipe cacti? They are very large. They seem taller than the Ocotillo. I don't know. I actually have no idea. I'm just guessing. Landscape Evolution Observatory, Leo, with some really cool experiments being performed by the University of Arizona.
The wind was so bad I couldn't hear what I said in the original video, but I think that's where they generate their power.
There are two of these domes, and underneath them are the lungs, which were used to allow the air to expand and contract so that the biosphere would not explode. And there's 40,000 pounds of rubber in there, and something that moves up and down. Remember, Biosphere 2 was sealed, completely sealed for 2 years, and they needed a way to allow air to contract and expand as the temperature changed. And this is unrelated, but it reminded me of what they said earlier, that they had problems with oxygen in the original experiment, and the oxygen started to get too low. It was threatening their health of the biospherians, so they found a way to bring oxygen inside, but they concealed that fact from the public, which was a breach of trust, really, because the experiment was not as successful, blah, 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 as successful as they were making it out to be. Okay, I gotta keep going so I don't run out of time. The arrow is telling me to go inside that door. Like I'm entering desert biome. It is warm in here. It feels really freaky being in a desert inside a greenhouse. They've got wind going. I almost feel a tiny bit humid, but maybe that's because I walked in from the outside. The reason I detected that humidity is this is designed as a coastal fog desert, not the Sonoran Desert. I gotta go up some stairs. Oh boy. But yes, a coastal fog desert. Information on nurse trees. Ooh, more coffee. Avocado tree. And all kinds of trees are growing in here. I forgot to stop at the marker for mangroves. Now I gotta listen to that one. I guess there are 3 different species of mangroves. Not sure if I'm filming the right trees, but it said they're very important. They grow in salt water. They draw up salt through their root system and then excrete it through on the back of their leaves, and they filter out bad things from the waterways. Okay, somewhere among these trees are papayas. And then, holy moly, this guy's big. Let's go find out what he is. Egyptian thorn tree. Wonder what they do when it reaches the top. This is the ocean, the artificial ocean, largest artificial ocean in the world. It looks small, but they've had very successful experiments involving coral reefs. The original living coral reefs died through neglect after the Columbia gave up on that kind of thing. University of Arizona is going to reintroduce it and learn more about how climate change and increased CO2 and acidification affects the ocean. Now I'm going to be moving into the savanna. So the upper savanna is a hydraulic transition zone between the rainforest and the coastal fog desert. They introduce certain kinds of plants that would provide seed pods and other food for some animals and birds they intended to introduce into Biosphere 2, which I guess they never actually did. I'm going to move on to the rainforest. I'm getting low on time. Okay, that's the savanna. With a fever tree. I'm not sure which one is the fever tree, but anyway. Gonna enter the rainforest. Holy moly. Hot and humid. It really does feel like a tropical rainforest. The original rainforest had 400 species of plants. They knew a lot would die off. There's now about 100 species. There's a well-developed understory, a well-developed upper story. There is an artificial mountain with a waterfall that cascades into a stream. And they're working on planting a mid-story. They've planted cacao, coffee, certain plants they've planted to try to get a mid-layer going that will create a mid-canopy. It is pretty complex. I know I got some of that wrong. Visit this place and check out the app. Biosphere 2 is absolutely amazing. Thank you, University of Arizona, for making it public, or parts of it. There are roaches and spiders and aphids and other insects, which they've introduced, but no mammals. Ooh, I am all hot and sweaty from being inside the tropical rainforest. I just walked outside into the open. I'm gonna see where the path takes me. Hopefully it's almost done because they close at 4:30. Looks like I am headed towards the exit. Gonna follow the designated route. I have done so many stairs today, and after yesterday I can't face those. I believe the accessible ramp is over this way. Unfortunately, a lot of the inside is not accessible. It wasn't designed with wheelchair accessibility in mind. There were tons of steps inside the enclosed areas of the biosphere. I am gonna walk up the ramp. It's a lot easier than stairs. So the casitas provide accommodation for conference attendees, visiting researchers, visiting scholars, etc. And there are quite a few of them. I think he said over 20. Of course, we really didn't see any of those, but it's always a possibility. I just made it out in the nick of time. They're closing. Do not miss Biosphere 2 if you're anywhere in the Tucson area and you're a science nerd, science geek, you love to learn about ecology, research, what's going on, cutting edge research they're doing now with the University of Arizona and the old experiments that they did with Biosphere 2 back in the 80s, 90s. Do not miss Biosphere 2, it's amazing. I think you can see them, there's a couple of mule deer. Makes me feel like I'm driving through Saguaro National Park. I had thought of going there, but honestly, this has been a really beautiful drive, except my windows are bug smeared and I am driving kind of into the sunset right now. This is the first safe place I could find to pull over because the shoulder was all sandy, washy road. I mean, not anything. I would get stuck, let's just put it that way.
I hope you enjoyed this video of Biosphere 2. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and all that good stuff. If not, that's okay too. I will see you in my next video.